I guess we'll begin, right, Sarah?
Yeah, you can go right
O-
ahead.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name's Ellen Janko Bacon, and for anyone that doesn't know me, I am now the new president of the NYACP. Welcome. Please feel free to use the chat box. It's there. It's going to be monitored throughout, and as time allows, questions will be answered. At the end of this session, please follow the directions that were sent in today's email for the online attendance certificate process. Please fill out the evaluation, whether you are applying for CE credits or not. A certificate of attendance for financial neutrals and health and mental health professionals will be included in the evaluation confirmation. If you have called in, please send an email to the office with the phone number you're using so your attendance can be verified. So now for our attending attorneys, I'm going to give you the first code for today's program, artificial. Today's code, first code, artificial. So it's my pleasure to welcome Dr. Stephen Kirch and Suzanne Kirch, and I see she goes by Susie on her name tag on the screen. Dr. Stephen Kirch, a former high-tech executive with over 25 years of experience, now helps SMB leaders leverage AI to drive business growth through his Profit Minds growth system. Partnering with his daughter, Suzanne, he integrates AI-driven strategies to enhance productivity, profitability, and scalability, guaranteeing transformative outcomes. As a certified rhythm maker, he also supports business with AI-driven KPIs and proven growth strategies. Beyond his work, he serves on the board of the Gratitude Network, supporting social entrepreneurs worldwide. Passionate about music, he sings with the Fog City Singers, performs in local theater, and enjoys running, biking, and golfing. Married for over 40 years, he takes pride in his two accomplished daughters. That's sweet. Suzanne Kirch discovered her passion for AI while pursuing her master's in mathematics, leading her to work at the AI startup
Mhm.
Cognizer, where she became an inventor on 6 pending patents, including 2 as the primary inventor. Drawn to AI's blend of applied mathematics, computer science, and linguistics, particularly in natural language processing, she now works with her father at Profit Minds, focusing on AI training, consulting, and implementing the AI transformation method to enhance business productivity. Suzanne excels at making complex AI concepts accessible to non-technical audiences, thankfully, ensuring that AI is approachable for all. In her free time, she enjoys crocheting, reading, playing games like Dungeons and Dragons, and traveling, with Budapest being a favorite destination. Please welcome Dr. Stephen Kirch and Suzanne Kirch.
Thanks so much, Alan.
Much. Yeah, so I'd love for everyone in the chat, just so we can get a feel for how much you guys do with AI, could you guys give us a 1 if you've never done anything with AI, a 2 if you sometimes do some things with AI, and a 3 if you use it on a very regular basis, just so we can get a sense of how much people are doing with it. Kind of what I expected, some 1s and 2s. Well, that's not at all great. Um, so, yeah, so we are going to be talking to you about a number of different things, trying to help you guys figure out how can you use generative AI in ways that actually will make sense. Now, first of all, we're going to start with what do we even mean by generative AI? Now, by generative AI, we mean things like ChatGPT, CoPilot, Claude, Gemini, Perplexity. I could keep listing for the next 5 minutes, probably. And so all of these things work with pretty much the same basic idea, where they predict the next word. That's it. It looks at what words it's already seen and goes, well, based on what I know about English, which it's been trained on the entirety of the internet. So based on what it knows, after having seen all these words, this is the most likely next word. And so when it's generating a response, it's creating it 1 word at a time. And so what that means is that what you give as context, which is all of the stuff you give it, all of the words it's seen before it's generating a response, that matters so much. The more relevant the information you give it, the better its response is going to be. Now, some things to expect when you're working with generative AI, it may go off the rails. So it's kind of, I like to describe it as that that party game where you create a story one word at a time. There's always that one person that really wants it to go crazy. They were usually one of my friends because those are my friends. And so the story always would go off the rails. There was, some raccoon that showed up at some point in time or whatever. But that can happen in generative AI because they didn't want it to be always the same response. But that means that sometimes you'll get some responses that don't necessarily fit, or it might make up facts. And so it is crucial that you continue to use your brain. Please never stop using your brain because you're using AI. The formatting may also be different. Formatting when you're using generative AI gets weird, but it's kind of just making it up as it goes. The other thing is we like to describe generative AI as a tireless intern, not an expert. So if you have an intern, right, they will happily do whatever you ask them to. And in this case, they are a tireless intern, so they will do the same thing over and over and over again until they get it right. However, you would not take something that an intern hands you and give it directly to, say, a judge or a client. Yeah, don't do that here either, right? It always requires that you take a look at what you're given, make sure it makes sense, make sure it's factually accurate. Don't be like that one attorney who got disbarred because they gave something that was completely made up and a whole bunch of false cases. And yeah, don't do that. So, right, I really can't stress this enough. Always check the information you're given. Always check the citations you're given. But it can be, even with all of those potential things that could happen, it still can be really effective and really helpful. And so we're going to show you today some of those things. But first, we're going to talk a little bit about IP and confidentiality. You guys working in law, it's probably something that you guys think about on a semi-regular basis. Dad, do you want to take this one?
Sure. So one of the things to think about when you're putting things into an AI model, unless you take proper precautions, you should assume that that is going to be uploaded to the world. And it's going to be used to train the model of the generative AI that you're using, whatever that is, unless you take the right kinds of precautions. So our suggestion, the best practices, right? Choose an AI provider with strong data privacy policies. Keep confidential and proprietary data out of public AI tools. It's really important. Again, assume that if you load it into just a normal ChatGPT account, it's going to go there. It's like uploading it onto the internet, right? Use AI as an assistant, not as a decision maker. Don't ask AI for the answer. Ask it for some ideas and then check them and then think about them and morph them a little bit. Use your brain. Establishing AI guidelines for employees on IP and data security. Again, these are all things that we can help with. We're not going to cover them in great detail today, but there'll be an opportunity to reach out to us at the end. And regularly review legal policies regarding AI and intellectual property. Now, I know you're not IP attorneys, but confidentiality, I'm sure, is something that is really important to you, to your clients, to your practice. So I would urge you to give that some extra consideration here. And again, we'll touch on this a little bit more at the end.
So first, I'm going to give a quick demo on how to use ChatGPT. Now, ChatGPT is just one of the many generative AI options that are out there. And the features I'm going to show you are going to be fairly common across the board. So these are things that you will be able to look for and likely find when you're using other platforms as well. So this is just our general screen. This is what a new chat screen will look like. And so we can just say, hi, and it will give me a response. Now that there is a chat started, we can see it here in today's little blurb. So I have these 3 dots right next to it, and you can see that I can rename the chat, right? So I can call this, maybe I want to call this collaborative presentation. So now it is renamed, mostly. But now I know how to find it, right? So you always want to name your chats something that's understandable, because it will give it some random name and it may or may not mean anything to you. If I needed to start another new chat, we have a button up here. Looks like a little bit of a, I guess, kind of a pencil. You can start a new chat. If you wanted to change the model you were working on, there's usually a drop down for that. So in this case, we have GPT 4.0, and we have O1 and O1 mini. There are some additional models that we could choose to use, things like that. We also have the ability to edit the message. So if I wanted to go back and say I wanted to actually say, I am working on some research, if I can figure out how to spell, right? To create a new line, you're pretty much always going to be using Shift-Enter.
Hey, Susie.
Yes.
Can you zoom in a little bit? We had a request for making the text a little bit
you want to
larger.
be able to read what's on the screen? Okay. So we say we want to, add an additional line. Say I forgot that I needed to do Shift-Enter. So now we can send it in, and now it's going to it's going to do a new output based on the changed input. In case you hadn't seen, these are the 3 dots I was talking about. Sorry, I'm using my big monitor, so it's obviously clear to me where everything is, but I forget that some people have smaller screens. And then if we wanted to rerun the chat, we have this ability here, which we can either just kind of click on this to have it rerun, or change our models so we can see we can have it try again. There are also a few buttons like attaching files, searching the web. The last thing is there's always somewhere.
Susie, before you leave that.
Yes.
Sorry. See the little underneath, hi, I'm working on some research. There's a 2 of 2.
Oh, yeah.
You can go back to the previous chat if you like the previous chat, or you can switch back and forth between the versions that you have. So you never lose, if you edit the input, you never lose what you had from the output before.
Yep. And then the last thing is there will always be, so mine's a little diamond. Sometimes it's your initials. It depends on the generative AI as to which one it is. But you will always have somewhere to have your settings. And in this case, the main things that you want to look for, there are some personalization, so you can have some custom instructions. So these are going to be things like, what do you do? What traits should ChatGPT have? What should it know about you? Things like that. So these are going to be things that it always does when it talks to you. You also have a memory, which I definitely need to search through because I don't actually help children bake cookies, nor am I writing a book called Yum Yum Cookies, but this was from a previous demo that I was doing. So you can change, you can delete some of the memories that it's saved. Sometimes you can clear your memories as well to make sure that it only remembers useful things about you. And then the last thing, you have some data controls. So improve the model for everyone means it will share what your chats are essentially to train the model. We have that turned off. And then there's sometimes some additional security as well. So those are always things to look for in the security and settings and personalization. Whenever you're working with a generative AI, you want to be able to make sure that it's not sharing your data, that it's not, we want to keep everything nice and secure. So those are just some basics of using, again, this is specifically ChatGPT, but a lot of these features are going to be available kind of across the board, regardless of what platform you're working on. Dad, you want to?
Sure. So, yeah, Susie's suffering a little bit with the remnants of a cold. So, most people, I think, and I'm guessing that those of you who have used the ChatGPT or some other generative AI are probably typing text in and waiting for a textual response. What's interesting, of course, is that there are lots of different input and output mechanisms here. You can input or output text, image, code. Yes, I'm talking about computer programming code, files, and use your voice. And so you can use any of those as inputs and outputs. And it depends on the model that you're using, exactly which platform you're on. But for a while, you could only use your phone and use the voice in on the phone, but those things are going away. But you can use text in, you can get a text out, an image out, a code out, a file out, or voice out. And likewise, you can do voice in and get text, image, code, file, voice out. So basically, any of these things can be inputs and outputs.
I
So
muted myself while I was coughing.
Yes, that's good. So I'll let you take back over.
Yeah. So we want to start with kind of the basic text to text. So coming in chat is a document that has basically all of the information we're sharing with you and more. And what we're doing is giving you some potential use cases for some of these input and output combinations. Again, the document has all of them. We're just going to be highlighting a few of them. It also gives you some sample prompts that you can try. And we'll do a few of those during the presentation today as well. But if we're looking at text to text, you can use it to create some communication templates, right? Create an email or letter template for client updates, reminders, and follow-ups, educational content creation, generating articles and guides on topics like collaborative law benefits, co-parenting strategies, financial planning post-divorce, things like regulatory compliance to summarize updates in family law and explain their implications, client communication, right? So more drafting of emails, explaining complex legal, financial, or emotional concepts in plain language. I always like that you have the ability, so if ever there's something that I'm not following, I'm like, hey, can you explain it to me like I'm 5? It has the ability to do that. explain it to me like I'm a 5-year-old, or I'm in 5th grade, or I'm in high school, or whatever
Or I'm a
your
lawyer.
level.
Yeah.
Huh?
You could have it say, explain it to me as if I'm a lawyer.
Yep.
I'm sure it would be happy to do that as well.
You can have it help with, generating case summaries, marketing copy. All right, so these are a lot of things that just you're trying to either, get some type of content out. Obviously, we want to continue to use all of our resources, which includes your brain and your vast amount of knowledge. So we don't want to shortchange that, but you don't necessarily need to use your vast knowledge to create a letter template, right? That's something that AI can do, and it's not a big deal. So the first one that I'm going to do, I'm going to do this as a prompt for ChatGPT. Now, I'm going to click the little pencils, start a new chat. Does anybody have a goal that they're working on? Maybe a New Year's resolution that they haven't given up on yet?
Introducing a new collaborative to a new case, to new clients.
Okay. What are you struggling with?
A new client, a new client, I think.
Client.
Right, we often have these introductory calls, somebody will, maybe it's a little different, I apologize, I'm not an attorney, so this may be pitched more to the legal side. But
That's
somebody's wondering, why should I have a team approach to my divorce? What will be the benefit of that? Is it gonna cost too much? Will it take more time? Will it get complicated to have more people involved in versus helpful?
Okay. So maybe something like, and I'm struggling to explain the benefits or overcome their objections.
Just to reassure people at a very stressful time why we do this strange thing called the team approach to divorce.
Yep. And help me. So one of my favorite things to do is to ask ChatGPT how to use ChatGPT. It's one of those silly things that, we don't necessarily go, Susie, how can you help me do this? Like, I don't sit and ponder how I can help myself do things. But it's such a great way to use AI. If it can help, but you're not sure how, you can just ask it. And so we have things like crafting the right message, creating clear explanations, FAQ documents, metaphors and analogies, some AI-assisted educational content, some interactive tools and engagement strategies, addressing emotional barriers, handling objections and concerns, enhancing your own delivery, right? There are any number of different ways that AI can help you. And it's just a matter of figuring out and kind of adjusting your mindset to just be willing to try things. Not everything is always going to be 100% successful, but if you're willing to try things, you might find some surprising uses out there. So what I'm now going to invite you all to do is open up. You can use ChatGPT, you can use Claude, CoPilot, Gemini. There are any number of different ones. But in that document, we're looking right now just at text to text. Depending on your role in collaborative law, you'll see a number of different sample prompts. And I'm going to invite you guys to try one of those right now. I'm going to give you guys a few minutes to try some stuff out. And we will be here if you guys have any questions over the next couple minutes. If you guys are running into, wait, I can't figure this out, which is totally fine and totally normal.
I confess I'm not sure how to even open that possibility. So we click on your document that you put into that? Okay.
Yep. Click on the link.
And you should see the document should pop up in your
Yes.
browser.
Absolutely.
Okay. And then you should open a session of whether it's ChatGPT or CoPilot or whatever, if you have ever used a generative AI and you have one that you like.
I have not used it, so that means it doesn't have anything to pull from. Is that right?
Yep. And
That's
okay.
right. But that's okay. And you
But
can
you
do this
can
with a free
say-
account.
Yeah. But you can go to, say you want to use Claude. Right? So we go here.
Let me just
And then
look.
you can just continue with Google. Continue with your Google account. And start a chat. Or you can use ChatGPT, because that's the one that I showed you guys. And we're just going to give you a couple of minutes to try something. Don't stress, you guys will continue to have access to this document if you don't have time to try anything now. Or if you just want to sit and watch, that is okay too. You will continue to have access to this document. Because also Dad reminded me that I need to be aware of the time.
Because we have a lot of material that we can cover here.
We have a lot that we can cover, though we realize that we can't cover everything right now. So do people want to try some stuff?
When you
people-
do I'm sorry,
Go
can
ahead.
I ask? When you do
Yeah.
a search and then you wish it to narrow, you want to narrow the search more because you realize your search was too broad.
Mhm.
Do you simply add another message?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
say, please narrow it down.
Yeah, you
in
can
this
talk to
manner.
this just the way you would talk to an employee, to an intern. You can ask it to do the same thing over again. You can ask it to do, no, I need you to add this qualifier to it, or I need you to refine the search this way, or I need you to do it in the following way. No, that's not quite right. That isn't exactly what I wanted. I realized I didn't tell you to do this.
Yeah.
Please do it over again.
If it is useful if you don't just say, please narrow it down, but please narrow it down in this particular way or using this particular criteria. Because if you just ask it to narrow it down, it's going to do that however it decides. And so giving it additional criteria is really going to help it actually narrow things down in a way that is useful for you.
Yeah, please alter the output according to this new criteria. Right? That's a perfectly good thing to ask.
Mhm.
And if
All
it
right.
doesn't work, you can always go back and edit it and do it again.
Mm-hmm.
That's the beauty of this. And it never complains. It never gets tired. It never says, I quit.
Perfect.
We have one person that we've worked with, and she will regularly tell her generative AI to stop being lazy. She will scold it, which I find hilarious.
Right.
But also it usually gets her better results after she says, stop being lazy, do it again. It'll give her something better, and I find it so funny that it works for her.
So what settings are
What
you looking
settings are
for,
you
Michelle?
Sorry, I was just trying to explore the screen, and I remembered that Susie was showing us the person where the settings where you could personalize and you could enter your information, and I just couldn't find any settings. I just did ChatGPT on the internet. I don't have the app. I don't have an account or whatever. But I just didn't see any settings anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah,
If
so once
if you
you-
don't have an account, you may not see the settings.
Okay.
Yeah. Once you set up an account and you have a screen that kind of looks like this, you might have your initials in the corner. I have a diamond. I think it has to do with what level we have or whatever. But you might see like your initials in here. And that's where you get to the settings.
I see.
But-
Okay.
But you will likely need an account to do that.
Okay.
So,
So let's keep going, Susie.
yep. So that's text to text. One of the other ones that's very useful, or can be, is text to file. So you can actually get it to create a file for you. Now, whether this is you've done a whole bunch of stuff and it's given you an output that you like, you can always say, can you please turn that into a downloadable file for me? Now, just of note, it does depend somewhat on which generative AI and what interface you're using. Some of them have more of these capabilities than others. Worst comes to worst, you can always just copy the text and paste it into a Word document, right? That is always an option. But if we're looking at creating files for you, it can create custom templates, right? For client intake forms, mediation agendas, coaching plans, can create some marketing materials, whether those are professional brochures, one-pagers, explaining collaborative law services. It can create some client resources. Maybe you already have an FAQ and you want it to make it look a little bit fancier, potentially. Or maybe just refine it a little bit. Financial reports, creating spreadsheets or PDFs summarizing financial analysis and settlement options. But again, with that, I will stress, do not give it any information that you wouldn't just upload into the internet as a whole. So that one, as always with all of this, just be aware of what you are uploading, because any information you give to a not secure generative AI can find its way onto the internet.
And there are use cases for all of these different options that we're going to show you. There are specific use cases in that Google Doc that we shared with you, so you can play with those later on. Let's move to the next one, Susie.
Yep. So image to text is great. Say you have a screenshot and you want it to take the gobbledygook in the screenshot and turn that into an actual like document, right? So extracting notes and ideas from images of brainstorming sessions, turn it into an actual document. Right? Images of handwritten or scanned documents into editable text. I can't tell you the number of pictures of whiteboards I have on my phone from college and grad school where that would have been so handy. Analyzing visual client materials such as shared parenting schedules, right? It can turn it into a text document for you. So there's any number of things like that where it can take an image that you have and turn it into text or have some feedback in the form of text. Excuse me. Another great one is file to text. So if you have a file and you're like, I need a, 2-page summary of it, right? Again, want to be careful what we upload, but assuming you have a safe and secure generative AI, you can upload a document and say, hey, can you give me a summary? Right? Highlight key findings from spreadsheets or financial records. Summarizing lengthy agreements. highlight important clauses in legal agreements for easy reference, summarize updates from legal documents, changes in collaborative law policies.
I'm just gonna, while you're coughing, I'm gonna can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna give the second code, everybody. First code was artificial. The second code is January, as in the month, January.
All right. Dad, I'm going to pass it back to you for web to text.
Okay. Yeah. So a lot of people use, generative AI as an elaborate web search. But you could ask it to go back and look at, do some research. What were the most recent articles? What were the particular topic that you're interested in? Competitive analysis, right? Client education, lots of things that you can do, like, having it create things based on the latest information that's out there on the web. You can just say, hey, go find me 10 articles on this and summarize them for me. Those kinds of things. Next.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Voice to text. A lot of people use, these transcription services. And I use it for most of my meetings. I don't try to take notes. I just let it transcribe the meeting and let it actually do the summary. And then, a buddy that I have, he'll turn on his Otter and just record a conversation that he's having. And then you don't have to write it down. You can stay present in the conversation without having to take the time to type it up. How can you easily check that the AI summary is correct? Well, that's a really good question. I always have my assistant look at the notes. When I do Otter, it actually has the audio file as well as, so if there's something that I'm not sure, gee, did it capture that correctly? I can always go to the place in the audio file and replay it and then edit the transcription. And then it will update the summary as well.
Mm-hmm. And one thing I will note is that not all platforms have voice to text or voice to voice capabilities. But so if your platform doesn't have a voice input option, most of us have this handy dandy thing called a smartphone. And oftentimes, I can't tell you how many people I see, they just talk to their phone instead of typing out a text at this point. And so you can always, if you're doing this on your phone, just have it transcribe that way. So even if it's not doing a voice input directly, there are certainly plenty of workarounds that you have to still be able to do some voice inputs.
And this is my favorite. This was the mind-blowing thing when I first got into this. I realized driving someplace, I can use my phone as input and I can have a conversation. I can actually ask it a question, have it give me a voice response. Again, this is with ChatGPT. Not all of them do this, but you can actually do a brainstorming session with ChatGPT. Get it to give you different ideas. You can practice mediation, negotiation, coaching. And get it to give you feedback. Get it to play a particular persona and get it to give you feedback. Receive the spoken summaries. I like to do books. Hey, ChatGPT, give me 1,000-word summary of this book and tell me how it applies to me as a solopreneur. not only that, but the transcription of that summary will appear in your account when you log back onto your computer.
And the last kind of piece that we have is some pro tips. If you do not know how generative AI might be able to help, ask it. Again, this is one of my favorite things. I find it so funny, but also it's really, really useful. I know that generative AI can help with this, but I'm not entirely certain how, so I just ask it. If you are working on a task and you know that it can help, but you're having a hard time coming up with the prompts, so the prompts being what you type in the little text box. If you're having a hard time coming up with the prompts that you'd need to accomplish whatever task you're working on, you can ask it to come up with those too. I always recommend asking for possible solutions instead of the solution. You never know when what one of the criteria that you didn't think to include is actually going to be helpful. And so you may find out when you are when you're narrowing down the solutions that it gives you, oh, that criteria that I didn't think to include is actually relevant. And so if you've asked for a number of different solutions, I usually do somewhere along the lines of 3 to 7, depending on what I'm working on, then you can narrow down the solutions yourself, right? We're not trying to remove your own agency, right? You have the ability to make the decision yourself. We want to continue to encourage you to make the decision yourself, right? We're not going to pass the blame on to a computer. And so asking for possible solutions, using it for brainstorming and coming up with a number of different ideas. And then you can pick your favorites and narrow it down from there. You can ask things like, what might this, if you have a favorite author or a favorite kind of thought leader in a specific area that you'd love to know what they might think, have ChatGPT say, as if, so us, my dad and I being physicists, Richard Feynman is one of our favorites. And I would love to be able to consult with Richard Feynman. But I also have, like, on my desk, I have David Allen's Getting Things Done. And I could always ask, what would David Allen say about this particular task? And so you can ask ChatGPT or your generative AI of choice, what would this particular author or thinker say about either this problem that I'm working on or this potential solution? What would they recommend? Things like that. But it's always, always, always critical to continue to use your brain while you're working with generative AI. Using AI is not an excuse to turn off your brain. And with that, I'm going to pause and see if anybody has any questions that they want to ask. I know we just threw a ton of information at you, and there's even more in the handout. So I just want to...
Alana asked,
Yes.
can ChatGPT be a confidential platform once you open an account?
Sort of. And it's one of those of... So we have a Teams account, and we are able to say, do not use any of the information we give it for training the models. But it doesn't have anything like SOC 2 compliance or any security restrictions like that. So it is not a guarantee.
You sort of have to trust them that they're not going to use it and that they're not going to share it. can your searches be discovered by third parties? Again, it's
Not explicitly, but
yeah,
once the string of words is out there, the string of words is out there, if that makes sense.
right.
Were you saying there were other platforms that were confidential, that were more confidential? Is that?
Yes. So we have a partner that, and this is one of the things that we're going to be talking about kind of at the end, but we can always just bring it up now, I guess. We have the ability to help you guys get set up on a secure AI model where you still have access to all of the generative AI, but your information is very much secure and locked down, such that the information is not going to end up.
Yeah, and there are several levels of this, and one of them even allows the names and any sensitive data to be redacted out of whatever documents you have. So that truly anonymizes things and makes sure that the confidential information that from a client would never get out. So the other thing that we recommend is that you think about how you're going to use it, create your own AI policy, whether you're a solopreneur or in a small firm or even a large one, right? That you spend some time thinking about how to create an AI policy. And again, these are things that we can help with.
Yeah. But an AI policy, like what documents will you allow to be uploaded or not? Right? Those are all things, and like what kinds of information are you going to use or try to find using generative AI, right? All sorts of these aspects are things that you want to think about as you're starting to work on incorporating generative AI into the work that you're doing. It's important that you're thinking about how is it contributing, and what are ways that we think are reasonable at this point in time.
Other questions? People understand how to use the document that we've uploaded? I'll upload it one more time here. Put it in the chat.
That has all of the potential use cases that we've shared and then some, because there were a number of different input and output combinations that we didn't get a chance to share. And it also has sample prompts for all of those different input and output combinations.
And depending upon what your role is, there are things that you
make
can
sure that nobody was left out.
You can. There are lots of different things you can try. So this is really just scratching the surface of what we do, and we do have a full-blown course that we offer. If you want to talk about it, we'd be happy to chat. As the QR code will take you to our Calendly link, and you can find a time to chat with Susie and I about what might be next. Any other questions? Did you guys get a chance to try any of those prompts?
Steve, maybe you could pick one and we could try it.
You're just copying and pasting the prompts, I assume.
That's correct.
That's what this is for.
Yeah.
Got it.
Is there one that jumps out at somebody they want us to do? Susie could do that.
I can easily.
What if you did generate a diagram illustrating effective communication techniques for resolving disputes in mediation?
Was that in the document?
That's one of the prompts. I just added the in mediation, but it's under
Yep.
mediators.
Mm-hmm.
It's the first one. I might just add a reference to in mediation.
Okay. I'm always curious how it's going to create diagrams.
And
The
then
spelling may or may not be good. We'll find out.
okay.
They haven't learned about diversity yet, have they?
Nope.
Not entirely, nor does it always like corroboration versus collaboration.
Like,
I don't know what this is supposed to be. Spelling in image generation still, because it's doing this 1 pixel at a time. And so spelling is still a difficult thing for it. But it does give you a place to start. Right? So a lot of this is helping with the kind of blank page paralysis. So a lot of people find it easier to edit something that's already been started instead of come up with the thing themselves and then edit it. And so this allows you to have something come, something generated to start with, give you kind of a starting point, and you can go from there. There are also some generative AI that specialize in images and things like that, though that comes with other ethics questions.
Susie, it might be interesting to see what the response is when you prompt set forth the benefits of the collaborative divorce model for parties going through divorce.
Sorry, can you
Benefits.
say that one more time?
Set forth the benefits of the collaborative divorce model for parties considering divorce. Great. That's great. Can you send that to us?
Not too bad, huh?
Yeah. Can you put that in the chat?
Yeah.
Unless it's too long.
Nope.
Anyone
Oh.
else has a concept that they would like to have searched?
I didn't know that there was a character limit. Okay.
There is a character limit.
Oh, well, that's upsetting. Here, just a sec.
If you put in, what is the statistical success rate of collaborative divorce?
Okay, just a sec. Okay, there's half. Oh no! Really? Really?
What?
It's too many by 3 characters.
Well, if you want, you could send it to
There we go. I put it
Sarah.
in 3 chunks.
Okay,
Somebody wanted something else?
Cheryl.
What is the statistical success rate of the collaborative divorce process?
In the United States.
Yeah, in New York, in New York.
Rate of the divorce process.
In New York.
Yes, in New York.
Hey, look, the New York Association of Collaborative Professionals.
Wow.
I've heard of them.
Interesting.
And then it also has
Some sources.
You don't think that AI is like sucking up to us?
It has no clue that we're here.
Oh, okay.
though it does know that I've been learning about collaborative law and things of that nature.
Great question, Cheryl. Anyone else?
Anybody have a favorite book on collaborative law?
Pauline Tesler is one of the early experts.
Does she have a book?
She does. Let's see. She does. I don't know if I have any.
If you put Pauline Tesler and her writings on collaborative divorce.
Yeah, I have the book Collaborative Law, Achieving Effective Resolution in Divorce Without Litigation. I have the second edition, Pauline
Okay.
H. Tesler.
Pauline H.
Tesler.
Aha. So I've asked for a 1,000-word summary. And so it found, I just gave it collaborative law because I didn't want to type out the rest of it, but it found collaborative law achieving effective resolution in divorce without litigation.
Wow.
Tesler, pioneer in the field, offers a comprehensive guide for legal practitioners seeking alternatives to traditional adversarial divorce proceedings. And it goes through a whole lot.
Wow.
So
If you have a book that you want to read, there it is.
yep. Dad's been
You
doing that
can,
a lot.
you can even say, and tell me how it applies to me as a blank professional.
Mhm.
Well, I think we've reached that time. Susie and Steve, do you want to say anything, any concluding thoughts, or anyone have any final questions?
Yeah, just for the purpose of clarity, can you just put each of your email addresses in the chat box?
Sure.
And I put in so I put in the Calendly link. The Calendly link is also in the document. So at the very bottom of the document, there's our pro tips and best practices, and also our meeting link if you guys want to talk to us. I will also include our emails there too.
Thank you so much.
I hope you found this valuable.
I'm sorry that I came in late, but I found what I heard very valuable, and I'm sure many people did find it valuable. I see Mark Fleischer, one of the founders of the collaborative movement in New York. Thank you for being here, Mark. And so in terms of the codes, maybe Sarah, you can indicate the codes. And just thanks to Steve and Susie. Steve and I have been doing videos on Video Socials since roughly April or May of 2020, when we all shut down. And so hearing him talk about his experience and Susie's experience with AI, we agreed that it would be a worthwhile presentation along with Ellen and Melissa and other members of the board and training and education committee. So thank you very much. And maybe we could set up another program down the road. And Sarah, if you could give people the codes and any other necessary information.
Yep, to reiterate the codes, the first one was artificial, the second one was January. Everybody that registered received an email with how to get your CLE certificate. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me directly.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you all
Take care.
for being in.